Hello, everyone. My name is Camila, and I'm with Pixagono. And with me today, I have Nerdist staff writer and Lutheran Rail enthusiast, Mikey Walsh. Hey, Mikey, how you doing?
Thanks for having me. Very excited to be here.
Oh, I'm excited to chat with you. It's first of all, it's been a while since we last got to talk, since last May.
Wow. Now we've talked to the phone plenty of times since
Well,
then.
yeah, but I mean, like, for more than just like, oh, hey, what you doing? I'm in Boston at the same time as you, but you're doing this, and we can't do this. And we like it just never works. This worked.
We have so many Facebook messages, text messages, phone calls. I'm pulling the curtain right back.
Oh, okay, fine. Expose me for the liar. No, I'm just kidding. I mean,
I get it. I get it. I wouldn't want to admit that I talked to me.
yeah, no, like, why would I? Like, you're
Yeah,
not cool or
that's
anything,
no.
or no, no, I don't
Look at
think
me.
you're cool.
I could not look any less cool right now.
I think you look fine. I told you
Is
that.
yeah,
I'm
fine.
surprised at the
Not
like
cool.
Star Wars shirt. I went with the Star Wars shirt.
I don't know. I have it in my head that I'm supposed to always have like a collar
A collar.
when I'm on camera.
I'm very not traditional when it comes to being on camera, considering during my career where I was doing that professionally, my hair was, bright red piercings and all bold colors and outfits. So I should have thought about that.
No, it's nobody says this to me. It's something that I put in my head, and now I feel like I can't break it.
No, dude, go crazy. Be you.
Well, I mean, look, I said I'm going to pull back the curtain. I am wearing mesh shorts. Anytime anybody has ever seen me on camera, I was wearing mesh shorts or sweatpants.
Love it. Sweatpants are amazing. I wear my Star Wars sweatpants all the time, which reminds me, we are here to talk about Star Wars today. We're here to talk about Andor, which is a show that we're both very obsessive over. We love it.
Absolutely,
Love the
absolutely,
show.
the best.
Yeah. So right off the bat, we just said we loved it. Both have many reasons why we love it. I didn't even think of a list or anything myself, but if what just screams at you from Andor? Like what attracts you to Andor?
Well, we're talking about it. I think what it ended 7 or 8 weeks ago, something like
Yeah.
that, and it's the best shows, the best stories, books, movies. They stay with you, but we get inundated with so much stuff. And because what we do for a living, we're constantly thinking about the next thing. We're thinking about stuff a year from now. How are we going to cover it? What is going on? Oh, their production. So there's not a lot of time for these things to stay with us. I think about Andor all the time. I have thought about season two all the time. Now, part of that is unfortunately how it is the most timely thing that has ever aired ever. Although, yeah,
Yeah.
I think for all the reasons that we don't even have to say, but I keep thinking about various characters and arcs, and ultimately holding on to the best ideas of the show, which is that no matter how bad things get, you can do something to make them better. It's not going to be easy. It's it's definitely not going to be
Right.
easy, and there's going to be sacrifice and there's going to be loss. But and this is why I think, despite being kind of like the least Star Warsy Star Wars entry ever, that it is
Hmm.
quintessential Star Wars
Hmm.
because it is about hope, it is about rebellion, it is about freedom, it is about good fighting back against evil. So I think a big picture, that's where I am right now.
No, I agree with you. And what you just said about it being the least Star Warsy of all the Star Wars show, it is, but it isn't at the same time because it embodies what Star Wars is. It is about wars. It's in the freaking title, Star Wars. Like you have these heavy politics, you have these awful casualties, you have these tragedies, these evil, legitimately evil people who sit in power and do things as we saw in Andor with the ISB and all of that. It's scary that life is slightly imitating art at this point, like you said. But I think that not having the lightsabers and helping like explain this side of of Star Wars a little bit more in depth, it kind of like brings back meaning to the to the title of the franchise itself. Because all you see is just people fighting with lightsabers. You don't see the not the behind the scenes, but you don't see the everything else that happens. Like in Clone Wars, you see a little bit of the politics, but you don't. It doesn't focus on it. It's all just Jedi. So it was really refreshing to have something that had nothing to do with the Jedi for once, in my opinion. I was sick of the Skywalker saga. As much as I love it, it's nice to see something that, sure, it's related to it. They're not in it.
Yeah, and it's funny because I think if you ask somebody what's more like Star Wars, Andor or the Book of Boba Fett, I
Mm-hmm.
think overwhelmingly people would instinctively say the Book of Boba Fett. But
Mm,
to me, Andor is so much more Star
I
Wars
agree.
than
I don't.
that. And it's not even a question of quality.
Right.
I'm not even, I'm not a fan of the Book of Boba Fett, and not a lot of people are. I just mean in terms of what the shows are about, what they're trying to do. I think Andor fundamentally understands the heart of why the story endures. I'm not saying lightsabers aren't important.
Right.
The force isn't. That stuff's all important. I'm also one of those people like. I know there are people who don't want anything like Andor in Star Wars, and there are people who would like Star Wars to only be. And I love it all. I
Hmm.
love it all. I'll take all of it.
I love the
Um,
Acolyte. I'm so sorry. I was one of those people that was
uh,
absolutely just down when it was canceled. I don't. I
I
wanted
just
season two. I like it all too.
Yeah. I just don't. I don't. There's a. It's a big tent, and
Hmm.
there's room for a lot of things. But at the end of the day, it still has to feel like it is part of this galaxy, and this galaxy is defined by people fighting back against evil. And this is. I mean, the franchise literally starts like that. The opening scroll tells us, like the
Oh
evil
yeah.
empire. There's. We could talk about. Everyone's always obsessed with like gray Jedi. Oh, where are gray Jedi? A thing that doesn't totally really exist in the way they think. I'm okay with good and evil.
Yeah.
And the older I get, the more I realize sometimes it really is that simple. There's good and there's evil.
Yeah.
So I think too, we're talking, we're coming, right after season two, the finale. When season one ended, I was like, it's one of the best seasons of television I've ever seen in my
Oh, for
life.
sure, hands
Like
down. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we'll probably get to this. We've talked about it before during
Yeah.
all those during all those conversations we haven't had. Um,
Oh
I,
my God.
I'm
Here we
not,
go.
I'm not,
Here we
I'm not
go.
I'm not a Rogue One fan.
I know we've talked about this.
So
It breaks
and
my
my
heart.
issue. Well, my issues with Rogue One are just the script, not what it's trying to do, not with the grittiness. But I went into Andor with pretty low expectations because it seemed like it was just going to be more of Rogue One,
Hmm.
which I didn't like. And then it's one of the best things I've ever seen. And going into season two, I said to one of my editors, I said, "What if this second season is just as good? Like, what are we talking about historically here? Because it's one thing to give us one of the best single seasons of television ever.
Hmm.
Lots of shows have done that without being great.
Right.
Lots of shows have captured that special magic that just kind of, lightning in a bottle and God, and it just nailed it. And then it did it. I don't think season two is flawless,
No.
um, but its highs are somehow maybe even higher than season one. And the way it wraps up the story is so perfect to me that I think that what we ended up with at the end was one of the best shows that's ever been put on television.
I
And
agree.
honestly, one of the best things that's ever been made.
I agree.
Let's bring in movies to this too. Like
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything you can say about Andor in terms of praise that I'm going to be like, no, I'm all, yeah, sure. Make up new words to describe it.
No, you're absolutely right though. It's the storytelling is fan freaking tastic in this, and I prefer season two more than season one. I when I started my Andor journey, I fell asleep in what's season one? Episode one, two, three, four, five. And then I believe it was episode six that startled me awake, and I was like, what's going on? And I started to catch up with what was going on, and I started to enjoy where this was going. I was like, wait, no, full stop. Went back and binged one through five and restarted six and continued from there. So it took me a little bit. I was very unmotivated with it. And it's mostly because of all the heavy politics and all the heavy talking and all the not a lot of like flashy action scenes that we're used to in a Star Wars movie. So it took me just a little bit of adjusting to that. But I once the Narkina 5. Once that arc hit, I was hooked. I was like, goodbye world, this is it. And I was worried for season 2, especially because it said it's 2 in the last one. I'm like, this is great because we don't want it to turn into a Walking Dead slash season 8 of Game of Thrones situation. We want it like we want it to be a good, a solid one, especially because it's wrapping it up and it's supposed to tie up or tie in directly with Rogue One, which I thought was going to be amazing and ended up being amazing. Um, but I was very pleasantly surprised with this season. I thought the 3 arcs were compelling as hell. They were interesting, they were intriguing, they were scary. Where the Gorman invasion happens, like
Oh,
the in
seven, seven, eight, nine is
seven,
when
eight,
it's
nine. There you
the
go.
Gorman arc, yeah. But it
The
does
Gorman.
start. I mean, yeah, Gorman's the.
But that 3-1 right there, they aged me about 10 years as I was watching them. And it resonated deeply and it's something that like I think of that arc every day, once a day, every day, ever since it's come out. And it left quite an impression on me. This entire season did. But my most favorite thing was when the last trilogy of arcs came out, and that third episode, like the show wrapped up, and I immediately turned on Rogue One, and it was just that perfect switch, that perfect click. Like it made me cry a little bit. I was sitting on the couch at like 1 o'clock in the morning going, this is amazing. But I really enjoyed that second season. Not that the first one wasn't good, but this one did a lot of things for me.
I think the if we want to work backwards, I think the finale is perfect.
Yes,
And not just perfect. It's one of the most impressive feats of writing I've ever seen
I agree.
because I've said this before. They managed to take a prequel where we know it's not the end of this character's story
Hmm.
because it's a prequel and we know how his story is going to end. It's going to end literally days after the show's
Right.
timeline, and yet it felt like a finale both for Andor, the character, and Andor, the show. They
Yeah.
somehow made a prequel that feels more like a finale than his death is
Right.
going to feel, and they did it in a way that was kind of quiet.
Hmm.
Like the finale is there's not really a lot that happens
Right.
because it's him leaving on the mission where he's gonna die. I find the last 15 minutes of this show as moving as anything I've ever seen in Star
Oh
Wars.
my
Very,
God.
very, like I find it very hard to watch it. The walk and
Yeah.
everything leading up, like when he's watering his plants, it just kills me. Um, then that walk through the Force healer, and I want to talk about that after
Oh
the
yeah.
Force healer, just looking at him and knowing, and there's kind of like it's not it sadness isn't the right word, but there is sadness there. Just this, she's so overwhelmed because she senses something or she
Right.
knows
She
something,
knows, but
and
she
we know,
can't. Yeah.
yeah, we know what she doesn't, which makes it even more powerful for us. It's just everything about the show is so good, but it all comes back to the writing. It is well written a show, and again, you need great actors, you need great production. I mean, the Andor looks amazing. Like
Oh
you
my gosh,
mentioned,
yes.
you mentioned liking the Acolyte. Like the Acolyte does not look good. The
No.
Acolyte, they spent all that money, and it looks like it was filmed in like a high school, a fancy high school stage.
Right.
But Andor looks like it cost a gazillion dollars.
Hmm.
You need the actors, you need all of this, but it starts with the writing, and I cannot get over the writing of that finale.
Yeah, no, it was I agree, it was basically the perfect way to end a series. I think the pacing also helped a lot They did the pacing just right, even with the time jumps and everything. A lot of people complain about the time jumps. Like, oh, we should have spent more time here. We should have spent less time with Mon Mothma to seeing like the first three episodes with the wedding. Did we really need that? It's like, yes, you do. You need
Yes,
there's
the
so much
wedding is
background
awesome.
in those three episodes. There's so much setup in those.
The wedding's amazing.
Yeah, it was. And by the way, we get the best song ever and the best like rave dance. Like, oh man, amazing.
I,
I love.
I will say my only real criticism of season two is I
Hmm.
just thought the opening arc for Andor in that first two episodes was tedious. I understand thematically what they were doing, which is, hey, you know the end of the rebellion. You know, like when it's this, actual organization with ships and leaders, right? Here's how it actually starts with a bunch of
Right.
morons on this planet that's going to become iconic as the base of this great achievement. And here are a bunch of idiots getting, fighting amongst each other and getting eaten by a monster. I get thematically what they were doing, and that worked, but the execution didn't because those people were so annoying that they
Yeah, no,
felt
I
like
agree.
cartoons. They just felt like cartoons in a world that never feels that way.
I agree. I was taking notes. I have to go back through my notes for that episode, but my I kept hitting on these assholes just need to go away. Like I'm not interested in them. Like I get it, they're there for a reason, but I understand the reason. Move on. Like I don't need to see them all die and fight each other to the death to prove a point. Like it's cool. But I mean, it was also a really important point in Cassian's story, I believe, because they rely on him so much that it's important to know that he's not undefeatable. Like there are things he can't do.
And he's also really good in the
Yeah. Oh
situation.
my God,
Like
he is.
like
He's
it does
amazing.
yeah, it does show, because when we leave him at the end of season 1, he's never really done this, right? He's
Right.
like he tells Luthen, "Go ahead, either kill me or put me to work." And Luthen puts him to work. And now we see why he becomes so valuable because he is really good at this. The way he plays them, the way he survives, it's fantastic. I needed the people he was dealing with to be less like cartoon stock characters,
Yeah.
or I needed less of them. On a rewatch, it was because I maybe knew what was coming. It was a little, and thankfully we know it's only 2 episodes. It's not
Right.
3 episodes.
Right.
Um, it helped a little bit, but I think outside of that, I don't really have any qualms with season two at all.
No, I don't either. I think it was bold and it was bold in the right way. In the right ways. And I like that. I feel like this pushed Disney a little bit with what they would allow like with certain themes and with just writing choices and things. And it felt like it was nice to see the franchise evolve in that way, you know? I really want to see. I heard rumors that there's a Star Wars horror movies that's supposedly in the works, or they're thinking about making one, and that would be pretty cool. Like it'd be cool to see something like that come out after Andor. That was pretty tense.
I'm always in favor of just try new stuff. I mean, and they have done like Clone Wars and Rebels kind of did
Oh
some
yeah,
horror episodes,
yeah,
and it's very effective, and they're
they're
very good.
good.
I think in terms of what Andor to me is kind of a miracle. Not only that it's this good, that again, a prequel series to a movie I don't like, where again, there's no lightsabers, there are no jet, right? Like,
When you say that,
no, but I'm just saying, like, so the other thing too is they don't hold back. Tony
no, they
Gilroy said
don't.
the only thing he wasn't allowed to do was to drop an F bomb.
Yeah,
That's it.
wasn't
Which
Marva supposed to say "fuck the Empire" or something instead
something like,
of
yeah,
"fight
yeah,
the
yeah, exactly.
Empire"?
And they cut
Yeah,
it. They cut it. By the way, it's actually just as effective
yeah,
in that moment, because it gets cut off right as she's saying it. But I have no problem with that because I want younger kids to be able to watch this, and also
yeah.
like it's a galaxy far, far away. They don't have to necessarily use. But the point is,
That's true.
nothing else is off limits. This is a company that owns a major network with a news division,
Mm-hmm.
and the Gorman arc goes right at the media,
Yep.
right at the media as being willful morons who are willing to sell genocide on behalf of their fascist leaders. It goes right at them. It does not hold back. It does not hold back against fascist people. And I know there maybe someone's listening or watching thinking like, just say it. We know what you're saying. If you know what I'm saying, you got it. Okay.
Yeah, we
Let's
don't
try
need
to,
to say it. Yeah.
we're trying to have a nice little conversation
I
here.
know.
Okay. Yeah. Like, believe me.
Ah!
And the day we're recording, enough bad stuff has happened. But I'm just saying, and nobody's going to watch us and be confused about what the show is saying. Um, but in that way, it's also timeless. You know, this is going to apply 50 years from now, and another generation is dealing with something similar, just as 50 years ago, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. Um, I, the fact that this global conglomerate, this multi-billion-dollar company, was like, "Go ahead, just do it," is just as much of a miracle to me as what the show actually does.
Yeah.
You know, and it's funny because you can almost look at like The Boys, right? The Boys is
I
another
love
one,
that show. I love
right?
that show.
Um, but the Boys is owned by Amazon, and it's I think sometimes easier for like one person to be like what like we really have to worry about one person. Disney's publicly owned, and it's got a lot of people all over the world invested. We don't have to give too much praise to the big company for not putting their foot on the show's neck. You
Right.
know, it's so rare
Right.
that it's at least worth acknowledging they didn't do that when we probably, if I went back in time and said, let me ask you if you think X, Y, and Z is going to happen on this show, you'd be like, there's no way Disney's going to do that.
Yeah.
There's just no way they're going to let them do that, especially with Star Wars, which
Right.
is supposed to be
It's so
for
many
kids. It's George,
kids.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this is
Yeah.
on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's on Disney Plus. So I think there's these special projects need all the stars to align. So many stars need to align that it should be mathematically impossible, which is why to me this whole thing's a miracle.
Yeah. No, and speaking of stars, oh my God, this
Ugh.
cast is phenomenal. And you are blessed to have been able to speak to a handful of them. And I'm both very envious and I'm very like in awe. But like cast, thoughts on cast, I suppose. I lost my train of thought.
No, I don't know about you. Sometimes I watch these things and I think to myself, if I were a producer or a director, or somebody making something, I would watch this and be like, I want that person in everything I do for the rest of my
Right.
life, right?
Right. Oh my God.
And I did not choose these two people behind me lightly. um, this cast is
Oh.
amazing. These are now I think my two favorite Star Wars characters ever. I'll have to really do some soul searching if I'm taking Obi-Wan Kenobi off the top of my list.
Ooh.
I know.
Ooh,
I
that's
know. I this guy got to
deep.
do some soul searching. I got to do
I,
some soul searching, but yeah.
I
But
respect that.
there is even minor characters
Mhm.
like everybody in the Gorman arc, whether you are rooting for them
They're
or they're annoying
amazing.
you or you hate them, they're the empires. Everybody is so good,
They were
and
amazing.
this is the problem with them releasing the show the way they did, which is that we should have had a week between episodes to talk about all of this.
Yeah.
How many conversations have people had about the bellhop from Gorman? All they'll be like, "Oh, he's the one who, rebellions are built on hope." It came from. How about the fact that his arc is incredible and that
It
actor
is.
is incredible?
He is. Like everything, every single one of those Gorman actors, like in that, like both, it's just so good. Um, they showed so much emotion and so much like their acting was so amazing that even though they were just in that arc, I felt the gap of their of them not being there for the rest of the episodes. You know what I mean?
It's
I felt that void of them of that those characters not being present in the other arcs. You know what I mean?
it's the Gorman arc is so good
It's yeah,
that
intense.
if I mean honestly, I would have released an episode every week through the first nine, and then be like, "Okay, everybody, we're taking an emotional break for 2 months. Then we'll come back with the final three episodes." I always talk. People always we live in such a spoiler phobic culture. People are so upset about spoilers, and I'm not diminishing that. I'd like things to be, held back and stuff. But I always point out Romeo and Juliet literally begins with the being told how the play ends, right?
Yeah.
These two are going to die at the end,
Yeah.
and the dramatic tension of knowing that you still, when you get to the end of that play, you're desperate for it not to be true, and in your heart you think maybe it won't be, and that's what the Gorman tragedy,
Oh
the
my.
Gorman massacre gets, right. You were watching that. God, I'm getting emotional talking
We
about
just
this.
knew.
uh,
Yeah.
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 You were
Yeah.
watching these people, and they're all angry, and then they just start to sing.
Oh,
um
the
and
national and their anthem and stuff.
uh I am I actually wrote a piece about this for The Last of Us. I am the biggest sucker for that trope of like people in this horrible situation singing. It always works in me. It is such a it captures the best of humanity, right? That even in the worst, like we will find a way, even if it's just to express ourselves. So we are heard one last time. And you're watching this, and we know what's going to happen because the Death Star exists. The
Mhm.
Death Star is going to be built, and 2 years later, it's going to kill Cassian and Jin. We know it's going, and we're watching the scene, and we are just desperate for it not to happen, even though we know it's going to. And that's when you know you've done something right. That's when you know you have done something special. I know I keep using that word, but
No,
I think it should be obvious how I feel about this show.
I mean, you can only say so much. Like and these are things that we've said constantly on our own to our own audiences, and like I'm just talking between us. But I agree, and I mentioned that my little arc aged me 10 years. I was literally sitting on the edge of my couch, going like I had already called that this was going to happen as soon as they mentioned that they needed all that calcite from Gore. Sorry, excuse me. I thought I was gonna sneeze for a minute. Like when all of that was mentioned, I knew this was eventually going to snowball into something like this, and just watching it unfold bit by bit, and like it was like peeling a freaking onion layer by layer. Just like, oh, you see the Empire start to get orders. They give the orders to go patrol out there, and now they start to incite, like not directly, but things start to get a little violent, and then next thing you know, somebody gets shot, and then shit just hits the fan. But it's just one of those things that's the way they built the suspense is literally like people should take notes on that. Like horror movie writers and producers should take notes on just how that was escalated bit by bit, but with such precision. It was terrifying. That episode is absolutely terrifying.
When So I had screeners, and they gave us the whole season, which is
Did they really?
very almost Disney almost never gives you a whole season.
Right.
um and
Oh, yeah, that's right. You told me
so
that. Yeah.
so I get to the end of episode 7, and my heart is racing, right? And I'm like, oh my god, let's go. And I start the next episode, and my friend and colleague Eric had already finished his screeners like the day or two before, and I text him 15 minutes into episode 8, being like, we are back to season 1. He's like, oh yeah. I didn't even have to get to the end of episode 8 to feel that way. Just knowing this is as good as it's as good as things get. And then somehow we have the Gorman massacre in episode 8, but that's not the end of the arc.
No.
And it's like, what are we gonna do after this? Where are we possibly, like, you have gone to the tallest mountain. Where are we going now except down? And then they're like, oh no, actually we have another mountain that's just as tall. And here's Genevieve O'Reilly to give one of the best performances you
Oh,
have ever seen in an episode where you know both her and Cassian are going to make it out. You know that they are
yeah.
both going to survive this. And at the entire time, it's like the opposite of the Gorman massacre, where you know it's going to happen, but you're holding out hope it won't. Here, we know it's not going to happen, but we're still terrified it will.
Yeah, yeah.
You
Well,
know,
just
like
get on with it. Like, just come on, escape already.
it shouldn't be possible to have people who know how it's going to end be sick to their stomach over what could have happened.
Right.
And and you said I was lucky enough this season. I interviewed her 24 hours after that episode went
Can you talk?
public.
You can talk about it, yes.
Yeah, oh yeah. It was I knew what was coming, and we put in the request, and you never know with these things. We put in lots of requests, and sometimes they're
Right.
just ignored. Sometimes you just get a no, and sometimes you get lucky and they say yes. And um, it was a very emotional episode. I think it was so obvious how much she loves this character, and I don't just mean loves like playing it. I mean like the character is as special to her as it is to those of us who love Star Wars and have loved watching her and have loved watching Mon Mothma and know how important she is, especially with so many other feckless leaders populating this galaxy. And it was genuinely one of my favorite interviews ever. It was so obvious that the reaction was really overwhelming. And again, it only been 24 hours, so I don't know how many people she could have talked to, not just people who would do what we do, but just in general.
Right.
I'm sure that she knew the material was there. How at this point, how could somebody on Andor not know the material is there?
Right.
Um, and it was it was really special. I felt very lucky. I think a lot of times people, I'll do interviews. People are like, oh, that was so cool, and in my head, I'm like, no, I was just doing my job. Like I guess it's cool, but in my head, it's like I know I get it's my job. That one was cool. That one was special. That
Yeah.
was like one of those times you're like, okay, this is what I do is I'm very lucky. So.
I felt that when I got to talk to Alan Tudyk when he was talking when for Resident Alien and got to talk to him and I was like, holy balls, I'm talking to K2SO to like I can the chicken from Moana, like all these dude from movie Knight's Tale. Like I was at a loss, but no, I get that. It's fun doing that. I'm glad you got the chance to do that with her. What other cast members you get to talk to?
During season one, for the junket, I got to talk to Fiona Shaw.
Oh, cool.
Trying to think who else. Honestly, it might people be like, "How can you not remember?" But these things just kind of.
I get
Um,
that.
I'm always afraid I'm going to say names wrong. Andrea Arona.
Oh, you talked to her?
That was during the junket.
It's amazing.
Kyle Solar, but
Oh,
that was
cool.
before season one. So we didn't quite understand what we were,
Oh my God, he was
you
a
know.
joy. I absolutely love Cyril. I actually have to find something that I wanted to bring up as a hot topic.
I got a hot take on this one. I got a hot take
All
on
right, give me your hot take.
Cyril. When you look back at the character, there are reasons to sympathize with him. Right,
Hmm.
his personal life. This was somebody just desperate to belong, desperate for structure, and we can see if he had the right kind of support going down a different path, right? So
Right.
I don't want to. I think that's a big reason the character is so compelling, is because we can see the sliding door where he is working for the rebellion instead of for the empire.
Yeah.
But Star Wars is a very forgiving franchise. It is, and that's an important part of it. I don't want to diminish that. Like they only defeat Palpatine because Luke won't kill his father, right? They,
Mhm.
they only defeat Palpatine a second time because Luke wouldn't kill his nephew and Rey wouldn't let Ben Solo die, right? Like this is an important idea, but at the same time, it was really satisfying to see somebody face consequences for the evil they did.
I agree.
And in that moment, when Cyril realizes I have helped do something truly terrible, he actually likes the Gormans. He just wanted to get the outside agitators, not realizing that he was being played, that the person he cares about is using him as a tool, just as the Empire uses everybody. And
Hmm.
as that was happening, all I was thinking to myself was, oh, here we go. Another redemption where somebody does truly horrible things, helps make a genocide possible, and now they get to redeem themselves. Nope,
Nope.
boom, gone. No
Dead.
chance at that. It was so good, and it is the antithesis of Star Wars. Every other person who kind of realizes, not that like, I want to talk about Partagas, but
Yes.
not that other guys don't, other evil people don't get consequences, but it tends to be you're gone, you're dead.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
Tarkin never has to grapple with what
Right.
he's done. He never has a moment of self doubt. He never has to sit there and be like, "Boy, I did some terrible things." He's just done. But
Right.
Cyril had that moment. Cyril's final moments in life is him realizing, like, I was just kind of play acting it at evil. I'm not really evil. Like, I thought I was doing something good, but even if it wasn't like I wasn't being good, it was for good reasons.
Right.
And then he has to realize like everything I've done is awful. I'm a monster.
Yeah.
And taking away his chance at atonement to me was really powerful
It
and
was.
very nice addition to Star Wars.
I agree. I agree with you. It's always it's a franchise that highlights second chances and to have hope for people to change and people can be good after being bad. And sure, Cyril could, like, had he had a couple extra seconds before the blaster hit to the face, I'm sure he would have been like this man has. I've been after this man for X amount of years and he's ruined my life and like done all this stuff and. I'm he has no idea who I am. Like I'm nobody to him, and like I've helped do all this. I think everything just crashing down on him, and him only having that like split second to be like, "Oh, this wasn't it. Like I could have done better, or I was a fool." Like that little split second of realization kind of it broke my heart so hard. I really liked his character.
And I think in that moment too, it's not just like Cyril's desperate to be somebody,
Oh
right?
my
We
God,
see
he
that,
is.
we see that when he comes up with the plan, right? And,
Yeah.
he doesn't realize they're talking about his ambition and, um, it's so in that moment, who are you? It both crushes him because he realizes he's nobody,
Mm-hmm.
but also it's at this exact moment where he actually grapples with that question, like, who am I as a person? I thought I was a good person, but clearly am
Right.
not if I did this right. And I think the reason he puts the blaster down as much as the who are you, you're nobody element. And it's more as a who am I? I'm a terrible person.
Yeah.
And that's his final thought. And I think I've softened on Cyril more since the series ended, just because really I've really kind of thought about how he ended up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I am very much we are all responsible for our own actions.
Mm-hmm.
But the support we get or don't get can nudge us in one direction. We do not exist in vacuums. And there are people on the show who were always going to go down an evil path. That's who they were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but Cyril with a little push the opposite direction, because he was so desperate just to have some sort of real connect to belong. He's just a
Right.
lonely person who just wanted to belong. Um, so yeah, very sad, but at the same time, Cyril's responsible for Cyril.
Yeah, no, you're correct. But you said you wanted to talk about Patergas, so let's do it.
Yeah, talk about like one of the best endings
That
for a
was it
character.
was one of those, oh, okay.
So he kind of stands in the show as the other side of the same coin as Luthen, right?
Yes.
Luthen is kind of not organizing these forces into what becomes the rebellion, and Partagas is running the IBS, right? And Luthen he's under control, but he's driven by emotion, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take your anger, bank it, let it guide you until it's time to unleash it, right? Everything for him is coming from emotion. People have been hurt. these people are evil. I need to stop them, and I need to remember why I'm doing everything I'm doing. I burning my soul. One of the best monologues ever written, one of the best
Oh
monologues ever
yeah.
delivered. Right, all of that. And Partagas is the opposite. Like anytime one of his employees even shows a modicum of emotion, he's like laughing at them. Right, he's
Celebrate
just
your
so.
enthusiasm.
He has. I think what's really kind of the most chilling line when they realize there's nothing that they can do except destroy Gorman, and he just goes, "Bad luck, Gorman." It's not. It's not that he says that and he doesn't mean it. He actually does mean it. He does mean, like, to him, he would, if there was another option, great, let's do it because it would be easier. Like
Hmm.
it's really hard to just do this, right? From a
Right.
logistic, he doesn't have an ethical issue with it, just from a logistic. So when he says bad luck Gorman, he means it like a bad luck for them. Nothing we can do. When we get to the end of his arc and he's listening to
The manifesto.
the manifesto, Nemec, right? I think I actually got this
Yeah.
one.
Nemec. Yeah. Yeah.
Nemec. In that moment, it's the first time we see real emotion besides annoyance from him. And it's him recognizing that everything that he believed in, everything he has worked towards without really any self reflection, has been futile. That they were always going to lose for all of the reasons Nemec says. And in that moment, this is very much like Cyril, where he has to reckon with what he's done. Now, Cyril's reckoning with kind of in his soul, as a person. And here
Hmm.
it seems more like he's like his purpose. Like, what did I do with my life? Nothing. I fought for a doomed venture, and now here is my punishment for fighting so hard for something that we were never going to accomplish.
Hmm.
It is an incredible moment. It is. I certainly don't feel bad for him. He's a monster.
Right.
He's a monster specifically because nothing affects him.
Right.
Um, it is one of the best endings for any Imperial officer, soldier in the entire frame. In fact, it might be the best.
Daedrus is pretty good too. I love her at the prison. Love her at the prison. Love her
It
at the prison. She didn't
I
deserve to die. She deserves to suffer.
the only reason I would put his, I agree. The only reason I put his above hers is because I can't shake the nagging feeling she might get out soon enough, because we know from the Mandalorian that they have this whole Imperial forgiveness
Yeah.
program. So I can't shake the feeling like someday but she'll still have to live with what she did.
Yes,
I
for
think
sure.
Cyril's death, I think, really impacts her.
Oh,
Another person who dedicated her life to something that was a failure, always going to fail. But I think that final scene with Partagas is incredible, a very, very powerful, and the fact that they found a logical way to bring back that manifesto
yeah.
and to let us know this was not something that only drove Cassian. This was something that inspired hope in the entire galaxy.
Yeah.
Was one of my favorite parts of how the show ended.
This show was so good. It makes me sad because I really want to hope that there's going to be another show that's just as good that follows it. But I feel like it kind of ruined it for me now. Let's talk about the Force Healer. Let's talk about the Force Healer. That was such an emotional scene. That was one of the most like Star Wars moments in Star Wars as a franchise. It was so powerful and it just
It's again, it's completely in the spirit of Andor,
hmm.
but also completely Star Wars,
Yes.
which shows that this series always understood what story it was a part of, that it understood the galaxy far, far away. And it's another moment where knowing what his fate is
Hmm.
makes it more powerful. Because instead of let's imagine Rogue One never happens.
Hmm.
Andor is the exact same show, right? Andor is the exact same show, but Rogue One doesn't happen. We have no idea what happens to him eventually. Well, we'd meet this Force healer who's very moved, and then we would spend a bunch of time speculating over what she meant. Oh, what does she mean? Oh, why is he a messenger? Because it's a prequel, that scene is so meaningful to us because we know what she doesn't. We
Mm-hmm.
know exactly what message he's literally going to send. And when she's
Right.
talking about, how he's just people carry things with them, but he's collecting and moving forward. It is I am sentimental about the Force. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sentimental about Star Wars.
Right.
This is why I kind of even when if I don't like a show or a movie, I always like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And it's this idea that there is something not only bigger than all of us, but that we are part of it. We are all together. The good, the bad, that we are not alone. We are just part of something so powerful. And it's not that the Force is inherently good or bad. That's why we have Sith, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
it's how you use it. But it's this idea that there's something that binds us, and her in that moment having her faith restored by him, just being near him, and he feels it. It scares him.
Yeah.
It goes both ways in that scene. He doesn't want to
Yeah.
talk about it. It is I don't know if it's really hard when we've got how many movies and TV shows, and everything. It's really hard to say, oh, this is my absolute favorite scene. But all I'll say is if I had to make a very short handful list of my favorite Star Wars scenes, there's no doubt that would be in consideration. Like that would be on the list.
Yeah.
I would consider it like it's. I went back out of all the scenes from season 2. That's the one I rewatched the most. I just
Yeah.
kept putting it on, and it overwhelms me every single time. I won't watch it with anybody else.
Yeah.
Um, and then the little payoff in the finale where she sees him, as we talked about,
It's a nice
it's
little
it's
nod to that.
incredible. It's
Yeah.
incredible,
Yeah,
and
no, I love it. It was very touching. Really enjoyed, speaking of touching, Clea and Luthen's resolution was tragic. I mean, she's the boss. He works for her. That's been established. But there was, even though they were mostly like business up front at all times, I mean, they had to be because with everything they were juggling and the constant like threat of the Empire looming about, it was nice to see that there was still affection, and she was absolutely crushed at having to do that, having to make it look like 10 men attacked the fucking hospital when it was just her. She's incredible. One, the actress is phenomenal, and I can't believe this is her first role. And two, her character. I know, right, right, right.
we gotta watch Hollywood stars get cast over and over again and give crappy performances. It's like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, here's her first time. She's just
Yeah,
yeah.
she knocked it out of the park. But not only did she do that, just her character was just so integral to the whole story. She was so like she was a Leia before Leia was there. She was a more, I don't want to say a more badass version of Leia, but she was. If Leia was a little spicier, we would have gotten a Clea 2.0. And maybe like during her more mature years, Leia does become a little bit harder like that.
He talks about his mind was a sunless place, and he
Yeah.
eschewed love and all that, but what we find out is not totally true.
Right.
That they loved each other, they found strength in each other, they were only successful because they had one another.
Hmm.
And their final scene when she essentially pulls the plug on him, um, little tear running down her eye. It's so quiet and sad and beautiful. And then of course Stellan Skarsgård, who's just one of the best. He dies with that the tiniest little smile on his face,
Yeah.
the relief of being free of having given quite literally everything you could of yourself,
Yeah.
including saving her. Like that's why he makes sure I'll go back to the shop and
Yeah.
destroy the radio. He knows he's not making
He
it
wasn't
out.
gonna come out of
Um,
there. Yeah.
and I haven't really seen anybody say this, but so apologies if they have, but the end of her story mirrors the end of of Cassian's story, in the sense that the show ends, we find out that Bix had a son with Cassian, right?
Hmm.
And I swear, if they ever come back and be like, oh, Cassian's kid turned out to be this famous hero or something, I'm going to lose my mind, because it's
Yeah.
not that he created another hero. It's that he created a better world for his child. He
Right.
didn't even know it, right? And we see Clea on Yavin, and she's so lost, right? And she knows the people here kind of hate her, and they hate this person who was something like a father, but not a father. This really strange relationship that was so important. She loved him so much, and he loved her so much, even if they didn't talk in those terms.
Right.
And right, and she feels so lost and alone, and she feels like she's hated. But she wakes up and she just sees these these people fighting for freedom, just exercising and going about, and she realizes what has been built here, and she realizes it's only possible because of what her and Luthen did together. So Luthen dies just as Cassian
Right.
is, right. Cassian's going to die a week later, right? Like
Yeah.
it's timely. Luthen's gone and then Cassian's gone, but they both left the galaxy better for their child,
I'm
right?
gonna
If we think
start
it clear as
crying
that,
all over again.
and I think this is the things I take away from Andor. And if I wanted to say to someone, like, forget the commentary on our world in terms of good and evil. The more important thing to take away from Andor is this idea that you can hate evil people, that you can hate the way things are, but you have to actually do something to make it better, right? Luthen always acts. He inspires Cassian to act, right? Because we know in Rogue One, a bunch of people are going to be like, we got to run. Like,
Right.
there's nothing we could do. And he's like, no, let's go. Like,
Right.
right. And that's who he is. So just this idea of you have to do something. Now, the problem with that, and this is what Andor gets so well, is that doing something requires sacrifice. It requires a lot of people sacrificing. And the season starts with him stealing the TIE fighter, right? The experimental TIE fighter. And he meets the woman working there, and she says, like, if I die tonight, will it have been worth it? That knocked me like right on my ass, right at the start of the show. Like, she's okay if she dies tonight. She is willing to give her life to this cause so long as she's not giving it in vain.
Hmm.
That's the unfortunately that's kind of what it takes to really fight back, is people willing to make sacrifices. And that's the best idea of Andor, more than anything, was like, yeah, you have to do something and you have to be willing to pay the price if you want to make change.
It just means a lot to me in respect to how it humanizes its heroes. Like, yeah, sure, Cassian's a badass. Like, they're a bunch of badasses, but you see that they're paying a price. Like you said, there's a price to be paid with all of this. I like how it highlights that as well.
If nothing else, it's nice to know, and this is what, right, the best art reflects our experience. It's just, if somebody can make this show, it shows that other people out there are seeing the same things we are.
Yes. Oh, I
And
remember my
it's
point.
and that's why it's hopeful.
Yes, it is hopeful, and it's also so I've told you this before. I was a big Empire, like big fan of the Empire. I have Empire tattoos. I obviously wear Empire clothing. But this actually taught me a lesson. It taught me a lesson that I don't like the Empire. I do not like the Empire. The Empire is not cool. It's not cool to like the Empire. Okay, kids? Stop that shit. It's not cool. Also, it's not the
Man,
Empire that I like.
the ghost of Alderaan are like, what took you so long? A
Hey,
million voices crying out.
I'm a little bit of a soul learner. Also, what I do enjoy is passion. I'm a very passionate person, and I've always said that if I was a Force user, I'd be a Sith, just because of the pure passion they channel the Force through and how they use it. And sure, it's always anger. I happen to be an angry person. It lined up that way, but I guess I what I've always tried to convey is I've always liked the Sith and that aspect of them, not the Empire. Very much against the Empire. The Empire is not cool. And I like to thank Andor for for making me see the error in my ways since I was like a child.
All right.
Yeah. We gotta get back
Um,
to Galaxy's Edge now, and I have to be good to everyone.
oh, you mean you're not going to give away the location of the secret base?
And I'm not going to like stand guard for that lady too when she flies off with her stormtroopers. Remember that, yeah.
This is real. This is real growth.
Yeah, it's grow. I can't grow physically. I gotta grow some other way, right?
Yeah. Do your listeners know that you're very short?
Probably not.
Mm, I'm pulling that curtain back. I told you.
God. All right. Yes, I'm 4'11". I am 1.5 meters tall. I'm short. I'm very short, but I'm very loud, so my presence is still very known.
These are facts. Unlike me, a very quiet person who never says a word.
Yeah, no, you don't talk at all ever.
No,
Never.
no.
No, ever.
Uh,
No.
can I just throw in two couple quick last thoughts before we go?
Yes, we can do two quick last thoughts.
It's just there are a couple people we didn't talk. Diego Luna is absolutely amazing this season, and in
So
season
good.
one for a show called Andor, he I don't want to say he wasn't at the forefront, but he just kind of blended in with everybody else. Like there was no real forefront except for a few signature moments. In this season, it feels like his show in a way. It didn't in season one. It's absolutely incredible. Denise Goff
Oh my God. I love
is
her.
Dedra is.
Love her.
I think it's so easy to overlook her performance because the character is so unnatural, but she makes looking unnatural natural. That's really hard. What she does, like even when she's like fake smiling, it looks like a person who doesn't know how to smile trying to
Right.
smile.
It
But
was
you know,
beautiful.
she's a real person. She knows how to smile. Watch an interview with her. She's charming and
Yeah, oh, I
delightful.
know. And I was gonna say, I've seen interviews where she's like, "Well, it makes me sad because I'm paraphrasing, of course, that like she didn't look pretty this season, so she was trying not to make the crazy faces. And no, she looked absolutely beautiful. She made that Empire look like she looked like a fashionista with all her imperial outfits, and like I loved the whole interaction with her and Mama. Sab's
Oh,
mom.
uh,
That was like a mental freaking chess game. It was
uh,
absolutely wonderful to witness.
capped off by maybe the funniest moment in franchise
Oh,
history, Cyril on the bed.
Clint.
Um,
It was
and
beautiful.
last thing, when they start bringing back characters from Rogue One, you're like, not that I didn't trust the show, but
No,
it can be, it's a really hard line sometimes to walk, which is like, Ben Mendelsohn as Krennic was
oh,
absolutely perfect this season. I mean, look, Ben Mendelsohn's always great, but just the way they used him. And I've seen some people say like, oh, that's not the same Krennic as we get in Rogue One. No, it is because on Andor, he's always in charge. In Rogue One, we see like
the
Tarkin and
shift.
Vader, right? Like, yeah, it
Yeah,
totally fits with the character and it
yeah.
fits with all of these Imperial officers.
Oh, yeah.
When they have the power, they abuse it, they're condescending. But anytime they are in that spot, the people above them treat them the same way. Nobody in the Empire is treated well. Nobody.
Nope.
Nobody cares about anybody. That and this is something that they've explored. Rebels did a great job with this.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, go back to the original trilogy. Palpatine's ready to throw Vader out and take on his son instead.
Yeah.
And then the way they used Alan Tudyk's K2, the right amount, the right amount. He offered perfect comic relief right when we needed it.
Oh, it's
I
so
think
good.
anything more would have I think it would have got
Very good.
tedious very quickly.
No,
But
I agree.
so yeah, absolutely incredible, incredible.
I agree. Thanks for hanging out with me. And where can they find you on Nerdist?
Oh yeah, you can find me at nerdist.com, where I'm a staff writer and coming up on 10 years there. So lots of millions and millions of words and videos and podcasts. And if you want to reach out to me personally, you could find me sometimes, occasionally, not really, Blue Sky, Burger Mike, all one word, Burger Mike.
Perfect. Well, now you know how to find Mikey. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.